Hey, it's Jeff and Kay. Welcome to the Infinite Mindset Podcast, where we're talking about AI and how it can change and serve you in your life as a professional entrepreneur, business owner, or leader. How's it going, Jeff?
It's good. This topic, there's so many incredible things happening with agents. I want to continue on this. I'm going to go through and ask you some questions about this.
We're going to talk about agentic AI again today. What it is, how it's working, and how it can help make a difference. Well, look, and really, what's going on in business, and why is this so powerful?
Well, yeah, because it's going to be as it becomes more and more normal with AI to become more infrastructure. We're going to have a lot of people that are out of jobs that have to become entrepreneurs. And they're going to have to use these tools. So here's something interesting. The biggest shift in work since the org chart was invented. For 100 years, companies scaled always by adding humans, right? Yep. Now they scale by adding agents. And agents might cost $20 a month, not $80,000 a year. So what's the opportunity here? It's a little extreme, but what's going on?
Okay, so let's dive into a bunch of stuff. So, and how this will affect everybody. So, solopreneurs are crushing it right now. We are not that I'm a solopreneur, but we teach a lot of solopreneurs, and that was my original background. I have a soft spot for solopreneurs, small businesses, because everybody starts there, right? So I love working with them. It's one of the fun times, I think, is kind of proving out the business model, proving out the business, and getting it up and getting it out there. I find that a really fun time. A lot of creativity going on, a lot of hustle, a lot of great energy, a lot of belief, a lot of anticipation. So those are some of the parts that I like the most. Anyways, so agents are just crushing it with that, because think about it this way. We'll draw a little bit. So we're used to having an org chart where we have basically a CEO, and then you have maybe your managers or your leaders underneath you, your CMO, your CTO, you got your C's here, right? Your CMO, your CTO, your CFO, and so forth, right? And let's say you've got our CIO or whatever, CSO, your sales officer. And then underneath them, they have actually their teams, right? Well, now we can take each one of these people and actually turn them into an agent. So you can have a CEO agent, which is basically now an orchestrator, and that can then arrange and manage your other trained agents. Now, technically, these are kind of considered sub-agents, although the question of when is it an agent, when is it a sub-agent is an interesting one, versus maybe these are now the employees, and these could also be the sub-agents. Anything that is task-related can essentially be getting done by agents. Now,
so just for everyone listening to this, the question might be, are some agents more expensive than others?
Well, so agents are expensive by the use of their tokens. So one of the recent news reports was that Uber, the employees at Uber, blew through their entire year budget for their agents basically in the first quarter. They were using agents to do so much stuff and chewing up so many tokens. So when an agent does something, it consumes what's called tokens. We refer to this in the AI world as like AI gas. And so when you ask it to do something, it goes in and starts processing. When it processes, it's using tokens to do stuff. When it uses tokens, it's billing you. Now, tokens are often, extremely small units of money and small units of energy, but you start piling on tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of tokens or millions of tokens when you're doing stuff, and it can start to compile and pile up.
Every agent has its own tokens, will require tokens to be used, and depending on your budget, you have more or less tokens on each one.
Well, yeah, I mean, you just put your credit card in and then you just burn through your tokens. And some of the thing that I think that might need to be regulated a little bit in the AI consumption world is actually understanding how much you're actually using. Part of the big challenge right now is that nobody really understands how much they're using every time they do it. I mean, we understand we're using tokens. If you go to ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini and you type something in, you have no idea how many tokens are getting consumed. You just do stuff.
Suddenly you're out of data. That's basically how it seems to work. It's like, I think I have to pay more.
Exactly, right? And all of them, all the agents. So when I use
a lack of clarity around
Lindy or GenSpark or Manus or anything, or whether I'm using, OpenClaw or whatever, though OpenClaw is open source, that's not the best example. But anyways, if I'm using any of the ones that you're paying for, essentially, then you run out of tokens because you've got your limited amount. Even if you're on the usually even if you're on the top tiers, which we're on the top tiers, all these things, at some point you still typically kind of run out. So, and I was actually just reading that I think as of right now, OpenAI was burning through like $700 million a day, meaning they were losing $700 million a day. Okay. So
was that was it because the people were using it, or was it the internal company?
So it's because it's because their customers were using it.
Oh, so the customers got crazy with the agents.
Yeah. So we're actually, here it is. Sorry, $700 million a day. Figured misunderstanding or misquotation of 2025-6 data. But anyways, because that seems huge, right? It was a $700 million over a 4-month period, not daily.
Oh, okay.
Still a lot of money.
It's still a bit of money there.
Yeah. So anyways, but in the meantime, the point is that it's consuming. That's what's happening is these agents they're consuming tokens. So the interesting thing about it, and I think it was just Oracle that just let go of 60,000 people, right? Mm-hmm. Now, interestingly enough, because we're tracking a lot of this stuff, there's a couple interesting things about the data right now, which is that the government does not actually track, it only tracks job loss when someone is without a job, okay? But what they're not tracking, which is actually happening more importantly than job loss right now, is actually hiring freezes. So companies are not actually hiring much anymore. There's some industries, of course, and there's some groups, and yes, there's always some people. We have a young lady who was a babysitter for our kids, graduated college. She's a mechanical engineer. She's super awesome, super brilliant woman in a mechanical engineering field, like getting job offers left and right now, and probably will for a long time. So there are some fields. You're probably familiar with some fields that are hiring and some fields that are growing. On average, a lot of companies are in hiring freezes. They're not hiring any more people. What they're trying to do is understand how much they can.
Just to add to that, I'm actually working with a company right now, and before they go hire somebody, the question they ask is there an agent that can do this? Then they go hire someone if they can't build that.
So right now, companies are primarily trying to understand that. Now, the challenge with this is that it's going to be an exponential problem, and we're going to have a sudden, exodus out of corporate, because right now they're not necessarily firing people, but they're working on trying to understand how to redo their infrastructures. When they kind of get it, then they will reduce the headcount. The guesstimate is somewhere between 20 to 30% will be unemployment in different fields and industries. That is pretty big if you think about it. I believe it was 20% during the Great Depression, right? So we're talking about a pretty significant amount of job loss in those areas, but nobody's really seeing it yet because it's really hiring freezes, right? The other thing to note is actually that you're seeing a lot more technology companies that are actually laying off people. So we are seeing a lot more tech companies. A lot of it is because of the coding that these tech can do. So Claude Code and Codex and from OpenAI and these vibe coding apps, Vercel and Base 44 and Lovable, which is using Claude, they're essentially able to allow the coders to do the same work of like 10, 50, or 100 people around them. So they just don't need as many tens of thousands of engineers that are at these companies anymore. That's actually pretty clear already. They don't even need fancy agents or fancy systems to just be using agentic coding agents and realizing that they just don't need them anymore. So that's kind of what's going on.
If today things are changing so fast, if you were starting today, and you were starting with AI remember it was about building a business and jamming AI into it. Now it's starting with AI centric first and then building a company around the AI. How would you design it from the ground up?
Well, it's a great question. So I would start with actually working with the agents, and we are doing this actually. We're building businesses every week here with agents, and we're starting with essentially validating ideas. We're building businesses the exact same way. We're just trying to see how much can get done with the agents, and then how many humans do we need to work with the agents. So what's actually expected, and I actually want to put this out there because I don't think a lot of people understand this, is there's a lot of everybody's going to lose their job. Not everybody's going to lose their job. First of all, it doesn't even make sense. We're talking about maybe 20, 30%. But what's likely to happen is 20, 30% will pour out, which will be big, and it will be major, and there will be some social unrest during that time, and everybody's going to freak out thinking that that's how everything's going to go, and it's going to get worse and worse. And then companies will start to understand what is the new infrastructure of these systems and these intelligences, and then who do they need to hire back? They're going to hire back upskilled workers. They're going to hire back people up when they've got their systems now in place, and they realize there are gaps between serving humans. Now, I think a bigger interesting moment in time will be when agents are serving agents, because that's going to be a more interesting time. We don't know where we'll be at that time. That could be 2, 5, 10 years. I mean, a lot of people are saying by 2030, we'll probably be at a point where agents are serving agents. We are seeing an incredible rise in agents on e-commerce platforms. So right now there's around a 20 or 30% of all like e-commerce, purchases are getting done by agents right now, which is incredible. They're actually out shopping for people, making
so that means there's right now people are using agents to go shopping for them and buy things on Amazon.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. And that's recent. Like they're just using code to do that, or like how are they doing that?
Yeah, I mean it's growing. You get some places say 20%, some say 24%. Someone say 60% of shoppers are planning to use agentic AI in the next 12 months.
So basically, the agentic AI, if you need protein powder every month, it's going out and buying it for you.
Yes, and what's a big impact is if you used to design your business and your marketing to actually speak to humans. It's actually not how it's working anymore. You're actually now designing it for agents.
How do you what's different about speaking to humans versus agents?
Well, it's an interesting question, and it's a new emerging area, so it's not 100% understood yet.
So it's like a whole marketing division for agents specifically.
I mean, there's a new area out around marketing and websites called AEO and GEO. This is where you can it's generative engine optimization and answer engine optimization, where your website is actually designed for generative engines like ChatGPT or Claude to go out and research and to pick up on your stuff, and then use that to say, here are some good resources for you to check out.
So it's basically kind of like, remember back in the day you were SEO optimized. So you're saying now the websites are GPT or
GEO
AI.
optimized, yeah, generative engine optimized, right? It's AEO or GEO, answer engine optimized or generative engine optimized.
So that you come up first when people are asking about that.
Totally. So if I said, how do I get fit? Basically, it would say, well, you get fit by X, Y, and Z. And by the way, here's some videos that I recommend that you check out. But those videos or those websites have been GEO'd out. They've been generative engine optimized. Just like back in the day, if you just put into Google, best way to get fit, and then somebody's blog.
Are there specialists in this domain?
Totally, 100%. Totally. We actually, at our marketing agencies, we actually do tons of AEO and GEO right now. And it deals a lot with the schematic or the framework of how you set up your page. So one of the big differences is that agents are essentially, we call them answer engines because they're answering a lot of questions. You dialogue with your agents a lot, or your chats, even just your chatbots, not even your agents. You dialogue with your chats a lot about, how do I get this done? What do I do? What do we think about? Like, it's a kind of intelligence. And so sites now, this is very simplified, but sites now that actually create a question and answer set. What if I had this? Well, here's what you do. What if this happens? They're very informational because large language models they're diagnosing and they're digesting all this information constantly. When you give them good information to digest off the internet, then they will find you, which is a little bit concerning. And we've studied this a lot in biases, is that, internet information is not necessarily unbiased. And so it is, of course, creating and cross-correlating over thousands and millions of different data points to try to create high-level accuracy, but still, it's the internet,
So essentially, all the people that have regular websites out there, if they made it friendlier towards that, they might be coming up on the Claude searches and the GPT searches.
Yeah, there's a special schema for it. If someone's interested in you listening here and you want to know more about AEO and GEO, you can do a little research on what it is and how to start to change it. But it's really just like SEO as you can understand it, but you want to really have experts managing that. Then you're putting up new pages and things with proper schemas on how the AI agents and the chatbots are actually researching your marketing materials.
That's how you probably attract the agents, by adding information about the way they think. So it opened up a whole market. There was marketing to humans, and now there's marketing to AI agents.
Well, and think about agents going to Amazon and searching on your behalf, picking a good product for you and then recommending it to you for you to buy. So they're now becoming the recommendation engines. It's a little bit like having a friend go and shop for you. Like, hey, Jeff, can you go help me pick out a car? You would go and you do the research, come back and say, well, here's what I recommend. So I'm only going to see what you have recommended.
I think people right now are generally using ChatGPT to get recommendations, but then they're slowly moving towards having agents do it. So that's the natural progression of it.
Yeah, so now back to this agent conversation here is if we have these agents kind of managing each other, this is called an orchestration. So when you've got agents working together in teams, you're orchestrating them. And the orchestrator agent, which is the CEO essentially, is the one that's deciding, when the CSO gets involved, when the CFO gets involved, when the CTO gets involved, when do we pass information back and forth, when are there tasks that have to be managed back and forth. And so that CEO is orchestrating, which is why it's called an orchestration. And you can be building these in different platforms. You can build these in relevance.ai. You can build these in Mind Studio. You can build these in Crew. You can build these in Paperclip. We're building individual agents in Claude all day long, and then we are orchestrating them on different platforms so they can work together to get things done. When you can orchestrate them together, you've got a team. So if you want to build a marketing department, you want to build a sales department, you can get a lot done. And the question of how much can you get done is where each company is exploring right now. So instead of hiring more people when they need them, they're actually saying, let's build systems and see how far we can push the systems. Once we push the systems that far, then we'll know who we need to fill it in. And this is no different than any SaaS explosion. SaaS is kind of on its way out. But essentially, we had all sorts of technology, and they said, okay, if you're going to work for a company, you have to have the ability to manage a CRM or work on an accounting platform. If you couldn't do that, you were, old school skills, you wouldn't be hired. And so now it's the same thing. You have to upskill yourself so that you can be working with agents and AI technologies.
So if someone was just kind of exploring this paradigm, where would you tell them to begin and to look up if they were on Claude or ChatGPT, and what would you tell them to start looking at and playing with and getting their feet wet?
I think now you should go play with Claude. It's such a powerful platform. And I would say learn as much as you possibly can on all levels and everything you can in AI. And then you'll start to specialize. I mean, if you start to think about where do you really love doing the work, I mean, you might love doing business intelligence. You might love doing, accounting work, forensics, legal stuff with these things, or you may love the creative side. Maybe you love doing images, or you love, creating videos, or you want to create marketing campaigns, or you want to create assets for yourself or for others. Like, it's just, once you start to study all aspects of it, you can start to understand where you want to specialize, and then you can go really deep in that area, just like anything in life.
That's cool. All right, well, that's a huge topic, and I think we close it off from there for people to begin with. Just even looking, the concept itself is pretty exponential.
Well, it's revolutionizing, and what is being said is that just about everything humans do right now, and these are some of the messages that I think are really great to help people understand. When people hear AI agents will be able to do everything you can do in the next couple of years, they hear I'm useless, and where the leaders, which I don't know that they've communicated a great job of this, is actually they'll go, oh no, you're going to discover new things to do that will be valuable to add to the system. This is what's great about this, is now you have incredibly intelligent systems to work together with you. And almost all major CEOs of AI frontier models will tell you, don't use them for the high-level creative and the high-level thinking work. Use them to get rid of all of the mundane routine stuff that still requires decision-making that traditional deterministic automation couldn't do. But now AI technologies can do. But the idea is not to replace all the high-level creative, visionary thinking. We still want to be having humans bringing those visions, auditing the systems, making sure that things are getting done right. We just want the humans to start to evolve into a more useful place than doing data entry and sending off emails and following up with people all day long and taking customer service calls that they've said the same thing 500 times, which is a good thing. It's actually should arrive in a happier place for everybody. But it's going to be a shift as agents start to reveal that they can do pretty much everything you're doing right now, and it's time to upgrade what you're doing. That being said, this is a blanket communication. You may be a very creative entrepreneur, in which case maybe it's not going to do what you do. Right now when they say it's going to do what everybody's doing, like maybe not. I mean, we have all sorts of AI chatbots that can answer questions on our Facebook forums, but yet our students want us. They want human beings answering the questions. They want to know that you have taken in their consideration, have a good worldview, and have a good human expression back. So, it may not do it's possible it could do everything, but it may not do everything that you do. Cool. All right, we'll leave it there. Thanks for joining us on the Infinite Mindset Podcast. We'll see you next time. We keep diving into the different news and things that are going on in the AI world, as you know how it will affect you. See you soon. Bye. See you.